Creepshow Art is, or was, an art commentary YouTuber. Her videos, where she would discuss current events in the online community, and later on the mainstream, were extremely popular, with her channel accumulating nearly 100 million total views over a short period of time. She would call out racism, art theft, obnoxious e-celebrities, and even go out of her way to oust people from the community who she saw as bad actors.
So if you want to be freaking taught, stay on this video. Just stay on, because you're gonna learn today.
However, at the peak of her career, she would experience one of the greatest downfalls in YouTube history. She actually lost so much support that out of 500,000 subscribers, she has lost more than half of that. It's rare to see someone of her size lose even 20,000 followers, never mind more than half of the people subscribed to their channel. But to most, that response is seen as justified, and even merciful. The issue with Creepshow Art is not that she's a bad person. The issue is that her actions completely contradict everything that she stood for in her videos. They went against the very reasons people subscribed to her in the first place. Nearly anything she criticized others for, she was also guilty of, and to orders of magnitude worse. This is the story of Shannon, or Creepshow Art, and how she torpedoed her own career. Though Shannon created her channel in 2016, she wouldn't upload for nearly 2 years. In fact, it wasn't until March of 2018 that she published her first known video.
Hey guys, it's Shannon, and today I'm here to admit something pretty dang important about myself. I am a narcissist. That's right, I was fully diagnosed by some hipster bitch. So you know it's real.
In the beginning, her content was rather bare bones. She filmed herself drawing in a sketchbook, overlaid with humorous and unrelated anecdotes. By this point, the storytime genre had already flourished, and even her specific format had been done before. But where Shannon lacked in originality, she made up for in personality. The starving artist was blunt and opinionated, a stark contrast to others in the genre. Because of this, she managed to garner a small but loyal audience who patiently waited for new content. Shortly after that first upload, an opportunity presented itself. Marcia, PewDiePie's wife, launched a clothing brand and began a campaign to promote fan art. Shannon sketched a portrait of Felix, which she later admitted took her less than 5 minutes. She then posted it to Instagram, where, as expected, she was shouted out. Her account quickly tripled in followers, which she converted into 100 subscribers on YouTube.
And that is if you just draw fan art. And when I say just draw fan art, I literally mean only draw fan art for other people and other properties that have really solid fan bases until one day you have amassed a following of people who love your work.
While sporadic uploads are common for unestablished channels, the explanation behind hers was more tragic. The surroundings of her sketchbook change in every video. This is because at the time, she was homeless, living out of a van with her then boyfriend. Creepshow would eventually feel comfortable enough to open up about these circumstances, explaining the story across several videos and interviews of how she became homeless.
Last week, I made a video about how I used to have a series on my channel where I talked about tips and tricks I learned while homeless and how I made 2 episodes of that series before stopping altogether.
Upon dropping out of college, Shannon moved back in with her parents. She started working at a storage facility, maintaining the job for a year and a half. However, this came to an abrupt end when one of their clients allegedly assaulted her. She promptly reported the incident to her boss, demanding that he be prosecuted, but her superior refused, as the man was a valuable customer. In protest, Shannon quit, much to the dismay of her parents. Reasoning that she no longer had a job and wasn't attending school, they subsequently kicked her out. Thankfully, she and her boyfriend had already discussed plans to move in together. The couple packed their belongings and decided to drive up north to Oregon. They only intended to live out of a van temporarily until they could find stability, but this proved more difficult than expected. Oregon had a high cost of living, and jobs were difficult to come by. Employers in the state are allowed to deny applicants based on their credit history, which Shannon had struggled with in the past. And the application fee was upwards of $50. Meaning that you both lost time and money upon rejection. In one video, Shannon recalled losing $200 in a single day due to 4 separate rejections. In the meantime, she tried to make the best out of her ordeal. Shannon hadn't researched much before making the jump, but she had the foresight to take a high-end jump starter kit from the storage facility. This allowed her to charge the van in lieu of expensive gas prices. It also included USB ports that kept her electronics charged for up to 3 days. Other necessities, such as food and hygiene, were solved through a gym membership and loyal patronage to Walmart, the place many have called the Mecca of the West. Given the continuous failure of her job search, Shannon had a lot of free time. Because of this, she began pursuing her hobbies whilst awaiting results. Inspired by other creators, she yearned to become a YouTuber, but this required a lot of navigation. With limited space in the van, she filmed her videos in public areas, like Taco Bell or the library. Such trips were already a regular occurrence, as they provided access to the internet and outlets to recharge. Then, she would record the narration on her phone in the van before editing the footage together on her laptop. Finally, Shannon would return to one of those spaces in order to upload the final video. With that in mind, the poor quality of her content is somewhat excusable, as it's impossible to deny the ambition was there.
I was catfished before catfishing was even a thing. When I tell you like the details of this story, you're gonna you'll know. You'll know as soon as I knew.
Even at this stage, she attempted to expand beyond story times. The first deviation would be tours of her sketchbooks, showcasing drawings from over the years. But the second, and far more popular spin-off, was a series titled Art Rage. The idea was simple. Instead of telling a story, Shannon would rant about subjects she felt strongly about. Over time, this series overtook the channel, as viewers found her abrasive tirades extremely entertaining. While it started with somewhat boring subjects like pop music, they slowly pivoted closer and closer to internet drama, and as a result, her audience grew. The channel's first major breakthrough came in May, following a video titled "Tumblr Hates Artists."
But for this video, I am going to be talking about my experience and my art-related hatred of Tumblr. But, the Fire Nation of Tumblr is essentially the SJWs and the Snowflakes, and they did attack, and they descended on my art blog. And let me tell you, that shit got stupid. My pictures of any character in a same-sex relationship was now exploitative because clearly I was some straight girl who was trying to use the LGBT culture to make a profit.
Shannon explains that she previously ran a Tumblr blog with over 2,000 followers about the Jonas Brothers. This gave her some notoriety, leading to harassment on her significantly less popular art account. Users began nitpicking her paintings in the name of social justice, accusing Shannon of drawing black people incorrectly and appropriating LGBT issues. With anti-Tumblr sentiments being very popular at the time, the video caught a lot of attention. It quickly accumulated over 200,000 views, and at the same time, her channel surpassed the 1,000 subscriber milestone. Shannon finally tasted actual YouTube success, and suddenly, this once hobby appeared more as a means of escape from her status quo. Her content noticeably shifted towards the contemporary, with more and more videos about drama following that upload. She did not abandon story times though. Those instead became increasingly outrageous, to high acclaim. One of her art-related videos would be her first to surpass 1 million views. When small creators first enter the algorithm, it doesn't necessarily guarantee success. It's extremely common for that to evaporate. But impressively, Shannon was able to transform this initial traction into a healthy fan base, retaining an average of over 20,000 views on each video. By early 2019, Shannon had garnered over 67,000 subscribers. The channel became more like a business, with clear investments made to improve the videos, such as purchasing an iPad to draw digitally. Her videos also began to include sponsorships, another important step towards building an online career. She was clearly earning a substantial amount, though not enough to be considered a full-time job. Thankfully, behind the scenes, she'd finally managed to get employed, which, in addition to her YouTube revenue, was enough to afford an apartment with her boyfriend. Over the span of less than a year, Shannon managed to pull herself up by her bootstraps and lift herself out of homelessness, a feat that many found inspirational.
Because I am a lazy loaf of bread, I did what all lazy artists do during Inktober to stay on theme but also have a day off. I posted a Flashback Friday, or a Throwback Thursday, or some other other time upon other day post in order to stay on theme.
In January of 2019, Creepshow Art uploaded a video discussing an animator named Crystalli, who was accused of taking advantage of minors. This YouTuber would be arrested months later on those exact charges, in addition to human trafficking. Because of this, viewers praised her for signal boosting the allegations, as well as discussing the topic in a mature manner. This led Shannon to begin giving her perspective on a number of controversies, including the health of Eugenia Cooney.
The video is so upsetting to watch because it feels like an inappropriate joke. Like you're watching this woman apparently have a really great time and be really proud and happy about something, showing off her cosplay, laughing about her love of this game, and the whole time all you can think is, oh my god, she looks so sick. I can see every bone in her arm.
Before long, her content revolved primarily around different allegations and callouts made on social media. Because of this, it became necessary for her to begin making inroads. This was when she began collaborating, networking with creators such as D'Angelo Wallace, Hopeless Peaches, and the Spookiest Ghost. On the contrary, this is also when she began to have personal feuds, such as her drama with the Rewired Soul.
Do it in their own time. But still, it wouldn't be as terrible as him creating whole-ass programs and books and products meant to dole out mental health advice. As of recording this, he has made the program that used to be $100 called The Science of Addiction completely free, which to me is great. I mean, he follows me on Twitter and tries to publicly befriend me. Like, that's not a coincidence. That's some fucking Keemstar, we were friends, we were chatting in the DMs type of shit. And even if I were to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he wasn't doing all of this for that reason, and I'm just paranoid and seeing things that aren't there, the fact that he, in his wording of the tweet and in his quote tweeting, what he did was turn my fucking homelessness, something I overcame that fucking ruined me for a while, and made it a way to brand himself further and kind of take credit for it in a way. Like, that struck me as so fucking annoying.
But she wasn't a commentary channel. This was the start of a new community that favored appeals to emotions and the moral high ground. Rather than stir drama, they spilled tea, and were later aptly named the Tea Community. Though she wasn't the first, Shannon was certainly one of the most notable, and she became a principal player in the discourse surrounding figures such as James Charles, Shane Dawson, and Onision. With the Creepshow Art channel growing at a rapid pace, Shannon decided to give back to the community. She uploaded videos instructing viewers on how to gain followers online, recounting how she did so herself by drawing fan art. Additionally, she started ending her videos with shoutouts to artists in the fanbase. On the contrary, Shannon's own artwork became less important, often being neglected in favor of still images or stock footage. Eventually, she began taking viewer submissions to use as B-roll instead.
Would you ever start showing people's fan art at the end of your videos? Oh, now I'm using their speed paints in their videos, so ha-cha-cha-cha. You want to see your speed paint in one of my videos, or your any video you want to play under my voice, send me an email at...
By the summer of 2019, Creepshow Art surpassed the 100,000 subscriber milestone, and just over half a year later, that number doubled. Through sheer determination and consistency, Shannon had cemented herself in a rising genre, but this is where the cracks started to form. In covering such controversial and sensitive subject matters, it's important to have a strict adherence to the facts, or at least try to get close to the truth. This is especially true of potentially damaging allegations, which is a responsibility every creator with a platform upholds to some degree. But with Shannon turning these issues into her content, she now had to find stories to fill a quota, rather than out of genuine concern like she may have in the past. Because of this, her abilities to accurately represent situations began to falter in dangerous ways, which takes us to the first significant criticisms against Creepshow Art. Jake Yance is a YouTuber who made commentary videos about drag show culture. In July of 2019, his entire channel was demonetized for reusing content. Despite this being demonstrably untrue, YouTube ignored his appeals. Being a fan of his, Shannon decided to make a video calling for the decision's reversal.
Because in all honesty, this is bigger than him, and it's bigger than his channel, and the effects of this is going to hit all of us. All of us on YouTube, all of us who watch content, and not just him.
Less than 2 weeks later, his channel was remonetized in full, and the two subsequently became friends. While a very altruistic act, this is important to understanding what happened close to a year later. In April of 2020, Jaclyn was accused of sexual harassment after a series of intimate text messages were released online. The allegations were then signal boosted by several prominent drag queens, who began airing out other grievances they had. It quickly snowballed into a full-fledged cancellation, with the hashtags #CancelJaclyn and Jaclyn's Overparty trending on Twitter. Now, to be clear, this allegation had little substance. Even if the evidence is real, there was nothing predatory about it, and he was only 17 years old at the time. But Shannon took a different angle to defend her friend.
So if there is one thing that I know about me personally, is that I am a ride or die friend. I am very loyal. I will stick up for my friends through thick and thin, and there is literally nothing you can do or anyone can do to stop me from doing that.
On May 2nd, Creepshow Art uploaded a video titled, "We Need to Talk About Cancel Jaclyn." Because Jake was a minor at the time, she decided to fabricate the claim that they'd shared his underage nudes.
Because a dear friend of mine is going through absolute hell right now. Their mental health is being torn to shreds, all because of people he looked up to and admired are trying to expose him using fake screenshots that are notably fake evidence, and oddly enough, because their points are so lackluster, they are resorting to using images that were leaked when he was a minor. Images that, so you know, are less than legal. And these people are sharing them all over their platform of over 200,000 followers. If your argument is so bad, so stupid, that you have to turn around and try to expose that person who you're arguing against for having their privacy invaded and having images of them when they were minors exposed to the public, then you, my friend, are gross. Point blank period.
This is blatantly false.
This issue here isn't the entire drama of, oh, the screenshots are fake. I mean, yeah, but Shannon gets pretty angry in the video saying how these two drag queens should have known that these were fake. However, if you don't really know anything about like Photoshop, or you don't do Photoshop or any kind of art or editing kind of software, no, these two images don't really seem to be fake at first glance. You can't really expect these two drag queens to be Reddit detectives about everything that they retweet. However, I obviously do think they probably shouldn't have retweeted, because why? But we're not talking about that. I know that's petty. I know that they're being stupid. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Shannon. In her video, she goes on to frame these two people that they are retweeting child pornography, and she frames it and she says it as if these two are spreading around pictures of this person.
Shannon explicitly accuses Ariel Versace and another drag queen of spreading CP, and if they did that, that would obviously be very illegal. But we have no indication that they spread any of those images at all. Much of her audience took this at face value, and even today, several tweets accusing them of being files still exist. 5 days later, a user named Louis Adamson called out Shannon on Twitter. He writes, "Creepshow Art's video about Jaclyn was a complete mess. She falsely accused them, being the drag queens, of spreading CP and misinformed her audience. You can't publicly falsely accuse someone of that on the internet. And her being a YouTuber, she should know that." In the response, Shannon claimed that she literally said they spread sex he sent as a minor, because they did, and those tweets are still up. Of course, this is easily disprovable, with Louis quickly posting a clip of what she actually literally said.
Is what was posted was revenge, his sex, his nudes, revenge was posted by and then retweeted by Shea Coulee and Ariel Versace, two people with massive platforms. And these were posted in direct response to them calling out Jake and trying to spread #CancelJakeYonce.
Shannon never replied. The Twitter user would end up making a video about the situation, though it didn't gain very much traction. Ariel Versace would also tweet vaguely about pursuing legal action following allegations Shannon made about him in the video, though this went largely unnoticed. Despite how serious of an accusation it was, and the fact that it was outright fabricated, Shannon got away with it, and escaped with her reputation unscathed. Jaclyn Hill is a YouTuber known for her makeup tutorials and reviews of cosmetic products. With over 5 million subscribers, and even a collaboration with Kim Kardashian, she is self-evidently a very influential figure in the beauty community. In 2019, she launched her own line of products called Jaclyn Cosmetics. It proved successful, selling out immediately upon launch. However, once the orders were fulfilled, reports began to surface of their poor quality. Many arrived melted and broke after a single use. Even worse were allegations of plastic and metal shards found inside the lipstick, which could induce allergic reactions and even bacterial infections. Jaclyn initially didn't respond to these criticisms well, but did eventually release a formal apology offering refunds. This did little to quell the backlash, though, as the beauty guru's reputation was now stained as that of a scammer. In light of this controversy, on June 23rd, 2019, Creepshow Art uploaded a video criticizing Jaclyn.
Why the f does Jaclyn Hill still have any fans? How does that girl have any public supporters? How and why? Like, that, it just boggles my mind. Because I've never seen someone repeatedly ruin their own reputation so many times and still have people say they didn't know any better after all of it.
Shannon points out that Jaclyn had a professional background in cosmetics, which made her plea of ignorance seem unlikely. She then questions how anyone could support someone who poisoned their fans.
She is pretty much poisoning her audience, her fan base, the people who love her and will pay $20 for a lipstick, and literally making the people who love and support her physically ill by giving them a product that is filled with mold spores and metal and contamination. Like, what the fuck? Her fans need to know that this is a confirmed pattern that Jaclyn has, which says that Jaclyn hates all of you. All of her fans, all the people who support her, no matter what she says, how much she loves you, how much she cares about you, you guys are great, she loves you so much, she fucking hates you. She thinks you're all idiots who will buy anything from her, regardless of if it's good or not.
This video was received positively, but didn't perform excessively well. After all, she was just another voice in the crowd. There's an important phenomenon you have to understand with the so-called T community. They frequently pivoted towards a villain of the week, with the disgraced rarely having a chance at redemption. This was likely part of the motivation behind her second video about Jaclyn made a year later. You see, fans of Jaclyn Hill are probably aware that she's estranged from her father. They stopped speaking in 2012 after her parents had a messy divorce.
Someone asked if I had contact with my father, and no, I don't have contact with him at all in any way whatsoever. I don't have contact with him. My parents, like I have said, they went through a divorce, a really horrible, ugly, nasty divorce years ago. The divorce was finalized. When was it finalized? I feel like it was like 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. The divorce was finalized, and I have not talked to him since. I haven't talked to him in like 2.5 to 3 years. So,
despite this, on March 4th, 2020, Creepshow Art uploaded a video titled, Jaclyn Hill's Dad is a Cult Leader.
So today, we are going to be talking about how Jaclyn Hill, the biggest pathological liar on YouTube, we're talking about how her dad is a cult leader. That is right, my dude. He's a cult leader in Africa.
She showcases the minister's LinkedIn page and scrutinizes various claims made on his website. For example, the idea that he'd healed a woman's back through the touch of God and cured another from AIDS. While interesting, this is self-apparently irrelevant to Jaclyn, but Shannon didn't feel that way. She prefaces many of her critiques by reiterating that he was responsible for the makeup artist's conception, as if to imply culpability.
Not to meme or prank you guys. I am literally sitting here telling you to your face that the man who provided the and to make one of the most prophetic and profitable liars on YouTube has a LinkedIn page where he says his current job is that he is God. His job is that he's God. He's just God, which is a completely fine and normal thing to put on a resume, on LinkedIn, anywhere. It's something that I will probably now, till the end of time, put on all my resumes after seeing this.
The video ends with Shannon questioning her claims of estrangement, as well as why she'd never disclosed the information publicly.
This is insane to me, and it's even more insane to me that Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this. She has talked about her and her family and how they used to travel to Africa, and she traveled so much when she was younger, and she's talked about how they went there like 9 times, but never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS.
Many of the comments praised Creepshow at first, with one even exclaiming that no one else would make this video. But others weren't as positive about that sentiment. They felt it was indicative of the hate mobbing going too far, and shaming her for something out of her control. And some also disagreed with the cult leader framing, as he was simply an evangelist. I must admit, it's a strange expectation to want someone to call out their own father publicly for, well, I don't really know, to be honest, being too religious. 3 hours after the video was published, Jaclyn publicly called out Shannon, writing, "This is absolutely disgusting. I refuse to watch this video, but just the title and thumbnail is so awful. What is wrong with you that you think it's okay to even speak about my birth father when I haven't even spoken to him in 10 years? I understand that people don't like me, but seriously, it's gone too far." In response, she defended herself by stating it was public information and that anyone who behaved like her father deserves to be called out. While that's valid, this wasn't the concern people had with the video. Everything, down to the title, framed it as something Jaclyn had to answer for, which it wasn't, because they were estranged and had been for nearly a decade.
You made a comparison between the two that crossed a line. It was not okay to make the comparison the way that she did, and she just doesn't address it, like, at all. Like, obviously people were pretty disappointed by this.
Following this back and forth, much of the discourse turned against Shannon, with several videos and articles written about the controversy. But, like the previous drama, after a certain point, Shannon decided it'd be best to quietly move on. However, one person wasn't willing to let her. On March 22nd, 2020, a small YouTuber named Toby uploaded a video discussing the fallout. Toby was a former fan who'd become disillusioned with Shannon's recent behavior. The Jaclyn Hill drama was the final straw, as Toby felt it highlighted her misrepresentations and poor handling of criticism. Having anticipated backlash, she was surprised to instead find the comments in agreement with her. In fact, once the video hit the algorithm a month later, people began sharing even worse instances of Creepshow spreading misinformation, seemingly on purpose. Because of this, Toby decided to begin compiling the evidence to create a cohesive, long-form video summarizing the many faults of Creepshow art. But before I go any further, a message from today's sponsor, Scentbird. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service with a mission to empower each and every person to express themselves through scent. They have a vibrant community of fragrance aficionados and beginners, stories of fragrance houses, and up-and-coming perfumers. Whether you're a beginner or just building a collection, they'll cater to your needs. And if you're looking to expand your horizons, just take a simple quiz, which, alongside your preferences and past purchases, will be used to recommend new products. This month, I received Aventus by Creed, Charmer by English Laundry, and Libertine by The Maker. Aventus really gives off an aura of power and success, with scents like bergamot, pineapple, and patchouli. Charmer, meanwhile, is a pretty light one, which hits on more natural smells like grapefruit, apple, and orange blossom. Last, but certainly not least, Libertine incorporates a lot of citrus smells, including mandarin leaves and starfruit. I gotta say that Aventus is my personal favorite for feeling like a boss. They carry Prada, Gucci, Versace, and niche brands like Skylar, Heretic, and Confessions of a Rebel. So if that sounds good to you, then use my coupon code TurkeyTom55 to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That's just a little over $7 for your first month. Once again, use the code TurkeyTom55 to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. On June 9th, 2020, Toby uploaded a 30-minute video titled The Faults of Creepshow Art. While her main concerns have already been discussed, there are a few other points that are worth mentioning. In a video about a Twitter artist who drew NSFW art of underaged characters, Shannon put a link to the page in her description. While this was for the express purpose of mass reporting, it came off as irresponsible. And in another video, Shannon called out an ASMR channel for being anti-vax. This is despite the YouTuber having long since reformed from those beliefs. In reality, the video was only made due to a petty argument the two had on Twitter, which Toby felt was indicative of her immaturity. And finally, she revealed that many of these complaints had been brought to Shannon directly in private, only to be ignored.
These comments Shannon made in her video are kind of very much over the line and in very poor taste. And many other people felt the same way. Even a fellow creator friend of mine told me that she'd brought it up to Shannon, saying, "Hey, what the fuck? What the fuck was that video? Excuse me, that point you made? Excuse you, I'm sorry, what the fuck?" And Shannon got very defensive and just straight up kind of just ignored my friend and kind of just brushed her off, which was, I mean, you do you.
Ultimately, these controversies illustrated a pattern of behavior that Toby felt needed to be corrected.
I'll be completely honest, I've been super stressed about this video, and the only reason that I'm doing it is because nobody else really will. I ended up trying to get a collaboration from a couple of different people about this topic, seeming as a lot of people that I talked to had the same opinions that I did and the same kind of points that I did. However, that was a little difficult because a lot of creators, the second that I told them what the video was going to be on, they immediately were like, I don't want to be in drama.
The video performed remarkably well, receiving over 300,000 views in the first month. For the time, criticism of Creepshow Art was receiving traction, and Shannon couldn't play ignorant any longer. The next day, she uploaded a 17-minute video simply titled, "Acknowledging My Faults."
Hey guys, it's Shannon, and today I'm going to be responding to a video that was made about me by the creator named Toby, that's Tobi. And straight up, after looking at a good amount of their content, they are pretty stellar.
Being forced to relitigate her past controversies, she took it surprisingly well. Besides some light defenses, she accepted responsibility for spreading misinformation, even deciding it'd be best to unlist several of the videos in question. Though this response was mostly viewed positively, some moments raised eyebrows for being deflective, specifically on the subject of her changing over time.
If you like my older videos, thank you. I mean it. Thank you. It means the world to me that the art I made in that time frame means a lot to you, because it means a lot to me. However, I do not want to go back to the person I was when I made those videos, because I was having panic attacks every night in my car.
This is a blatant non sequitur to what Toby meant, and doesn't even really make sense in context, but it's a small part of what is largely a good response, and earned her back a lot of charity. Such charity would prove very useful 1 month later, when her entire online career was put in jeopardy. On July 1st, 2020, Creepshow Art was caught in a wave of demonetizations across the websites. To this day, its cause is uncertain, but it seemed to primarily target commentary channels. In fact, at the time, the Turkey Tom channel was actually hit in the same way. The next morning, Shannon went live and asked her viewers to spread the word. They were vocal enough to catch the attention of Ethan Klein, who maintains a direct line of contact with YouTube. Within 24 hours, he was able to get her channel fully remonetized, the first out of anyone affected. Interestingly, the previously mentioned Ariel Versace took credit for Shannon's demonetization, claiming it to be the result of legal action. But given how it was very quickly reversed, this doesn't seem to be true. Despite all of the road bumps along the way, Shannon continued to experience exponential growth. By September of 2020, she surpassed the 300,000 subscriber milestone, and it would only take 3 more months for her to gain another 100,000. Now, more than ever, she needed to internalize the criticisms, to respond maturely, to not spread misinformation, and to use her platform responsibly. If she didn't, then it would only be a matter of time before people realized how inconsistent and reckless she was. Unfortunately, this was not the case, as brewing in the background was one of the most petty and convoluted dramas to occur on this site, and in December, it finally started to overflow. The Hopeless Peaches drama is confusing, and it involves a lot of creators who are otherwise irrelevant to the story. Because of this, rather than cover the entire drama, we're going to hyper-focus on Creepshow's involvement. Bear in mind that this is an extremely abbreviated version of events that ignores several otherwise key players. Hopeless Peaches is an English artist and commentator who similarly gained prominence in 2019. Having been a fan, she created a video attempting to emulate Creepshow Art's style. This caught Shannon's attention, who was flattered and decided to reach out. The two became friends, collaborating and even putting each other in their sidebars. In private, Shannon would give the aspiring creator advice on how to grow, later claiming she viewed Peaches as her little sister in the art community.
I would talk about how I considered her to be my little sister in the art commentary community, and I truly adored her. Now, I know a lot of people online will say they are friends with people when they aren't really. Like, they're casual acquaintance at best. There are definitely some people who I talk to online who, while I like their content, I wouldn't say we are super close butt buddies and we talk all the time and I love that. Like, it's just different. To me, there's always a line between this person is a work friend and this person is as a real friend. And much like Ready to Glare and Edwin, Peaches ended up crossing the line over someone who I would have described as a real friend.
However, sometime in 2020, these siblings had a falling out over circumstances that are still disputed to this day. According to Shannon, the fallout occurred shortly after the video about Jaclyn Hill's father. Peaches sent a message stating that she came off as a bully, which Shannon disagreed with. The two had a civil conversation about the subject, and both claimed to understand each other's position. However, after it ended, Peaches soft-blocked Shannon before tweeting vaguely about how disappointed she was by her heroes. She then followed it up by claiming the argument had negatively impacted her mental health, even causing her to shake with anger and sadness. Confused, Shannon bit her tongue until June, when the Faults of Creepshow Art was released. In the aforementioned apology, Shannon goes off on a tangent about the negative experience she had with a creator.
I thought we were genuinely like really close friends, and when they said hey, they messaged me on Twitter and said, hey, I didn't like what you said in this video. I gave them my reasoning, which I just said above. I pretty much said what I said to you guys in the DMs. I told them why I personally stood by the video and let them know my side. I never said they couldn't disagree with it or that they had to defend it, any of that. I simply let them know what I felt, and at the end of that message I said, it's not that bonkers, meaning that I didn't think the issue itself was that deep or that messy. It was just what I felt, and that's what I said. At that point, the person soft blocked me and blocked me on their second account, and they also went so far as to remove the video they had previously made about me from their channel. It wasn't until I saw that I was no longer following her without unfollowing her, and that she had publicly stated multiple times that she didn't want to be associated with me, that I thought something was wrong. Because I care for this person and thought we were close friends, I also said before that I know that this is one of the people who Toby said feels negatively about me and is scared of me, and if I'm being very, very clear here, that hurts me more than anything else that was said in this video. Anything else was fine, because I did think we were close friends, and I do greatly care about this person, and I shared a lot of private information with them because I trusted them. So knowing they are now telling other content creators about our private conversations, and they're talking to other content creators about me in this way and are scared of me, that to me sucks.
This was included because Shannon suspected Peaches to have worked on Toby's video. Peaches would end up messaging Shannon in private, stating that she hadn't smeared her to other creators. She then apologized for how she acted, attempting to rectify a few misunderstandings. For example, her removal of the video about Creepshow wasn't a slight. Every video in that series was unlisted and available through a playlist. Although she was approached by Toby, she refused the offer and did not share any private conversations. In fact, to many creators, she continued to defend Shannon, even calling her a good person long after they'd fallen out. Regardless, if you're of the opinion that Peaches is dishonest, then this could be unconvincing. However, that same day, Toby also reached out to clarify that Peaches had no involvement.
Me. No, Hopeless Peaches did not have any hand in the idea or the production of my Faults of Creepshow Art video that I had made and I had posted mid-2020. Hopeless Peaches was one of many creators that I had reached out to for their thoughts and their inputs on Shannon and her channel. She gave me a similar response as everybody else that I had asked. I told you about this months ago, because after you lost your actual marbles over the fact that some person in my video where I said, I asked two other creators and they said you brushed them off. You took that to that small part and ran summer with it, because you went actually crazy and took it as a personal offense, which is being blown out of proportion. And I told you this in DMs the day that you posted that no, that's not what was going on. This is not what actually happened. And no, nobody helped me with that video. I said that to you in DMs the day you posted your response video. So you know that this is false.
Within 24 hours, Creepshow was briefed on what her actual involvement was. Yet, for months, she continued to repeat the same story told in her apology. Shannon not only ignored information, but had also been doing exactly what she accused Peaches of. In private, she began smearing her reputation to other creators. This included claiming that Peaches was spreading lies, such as the idea that she'd been screamed at over the disagreement. What on its face appeared to be a measured response to the criticism, in actuality, was a vehicle to begin a vindictive, months-long campaign against a former associate. One of those YouTubers was prison mate Luke, who in November of 2020 uploaded a video discussing Toby. Quick side note, Toby was getting canceled at the time for defending Shane Dawson and taking criticism poorly. It's not important, but that's why. Because Hopeless Peaches commented on the situation, he dedicated 2 minutes entirely to her, in which Luke interpreted all of her actions in the worst possible light he possibly could have.
And another person who commented was Hopeless Peaches, who also decided to put herself into the drama despite constantly saying how she doesn't want to be in it, and would just never leave it alone. And when people like Thummin called her out for her terrible and biased behavior, she made a community post about how she wasn't friends with Toby, which I didn't actually know she wasn't friends with Toby, because she did everything in her power to defend her, and vilified Omnia so much that I thought she was. Because why go through all that hassle for someone you apparently don't even care about? Well, you say how you're going to be taking a break from the drama and comments and all that, which is fine. If you need a break, you need one. I'm not saying you don't have mental health problems, but you would constantly come back to post more things and beg for sympathy. And when you were getting genuine criticism for all the garbage you've done, you decided to suicide bait your audience, going off the grid for hours to make your audience worry that you hurt or killed yourself. And guess what? 2 days later, you were back to making tweets again.
The drama continued to escalate, with Peaches responding on both YouTube and Twitter. She also attempted to message Luke in private, only for him to vaguely reference other creators she'd hurt and lied about. This culminated in him creating a video focused solely on Peaches, of which the second half censors around her treatment of Creepshow Art. The information was given to him by Shannon directly, which she alluded to on Twitter a few days prior.
But when I say she's lied about other creators' law in this video, I don't just say it to say it. She has a history of screwing over other creators and fans when they slightly disagree with her, whether that be from recent drama or stuff from a long time ago, and I don't think anything shows this better than what she did to Creepshow Art. Someone who gave her a lot of help and support, and someone she treated a lot worse than she treated me. Now, before Peaches or anyone else says that I'm faking these or something else stupid, I got these from the lady herself, Creepshow. People like Toby would make videos on Creepshow and criticize her, sometimes using the lies that Peaches told just because she didn't get enough out of Creepshow. It's disgusting. And Peaches never let Creepshow know that they were done being friends. She found out about all of this when people just wouldn't associate with her because of what Peaches said. And it hurt her. It would hurt anyone. The whole community was taught to avoid her because of Peaches, and that isn't okay.
5 days later, Shannon uploaded her own video titled, Hopeless Peaches Needs to Stop.
I want to start this video by saying outright that I had no intentions of making any of this public. In fact, I have known about what Peaches has said about me for months now, and when I was under the impression that she had only done this to me and this was something that I was somehow responsible for via my actions, I was very content keeping it private. I thought even though I could prove she was actively lying about me and I showed that to other people, that somehow I had really been responsible and I had made her do what she did to me.
Much of the grievances are stuff we've already covered, aside from a few smaller claims and issues concerning another creator. Because I've already discussed what verifiably happened, here's a few differences between the evidence and how Shannon portrayed it to her audience. Shannon acknowledges that Peaches reached out to her in private, but only shows the first and last messages of the conversation.
Until she sent me a DM, pretty much stating that me crying in my response video by me talking about the part where once again she approved Toby putting this in her video where Toby said she was scared of me and she cried because of me. She responded by telling me I made her look like a bitch. And she was going to reach out again because she saw me, quote, improving, but then decided not to since my video was very one-sided and it was a one-sided retelling of events. Which, fun fact, Peaches, I don't know if you know this, but you can't tell multiple sides of a story if you don't fucking know them. I can't tell people, like, oh, I was yelling at you when that didn't happen. I can't tell your side of the story if you don't tell me your side of the story.
In between the messages she showed were an apology and clarification she was not involved with Toby's video. Shannon had now heard the other side of the story, but was simply ignoring it. Not disputing it, but outright ignoring its existence. Because the full extent of these conversations weren't public yet, people rallied behind Creepshow, with the video receiving nearly 1 million views. Hopeless Peaches became enemy number 1, losing over 14,000 subscribers. She attempted to respond, but it was self-admittedly poor and quickly deleted. The infighting continued, with the drama roping in more and more creators until February of 2021. That month, a group of YouTubers independently decided to re-examine the case as they felt her treatment was unfair. The result was a 36-page document, mainly pertaining to prison mate Luke. However, 15 of those pages regarded Shannon, who they argued was unable to substantiate her claims. In response, Shannon uploaded what would be her final video on the subject. Realizing that Toby was contradicting her claims, she attempted to poison the well by bringing up the drama that started this chain of events.
But Tobes pretty much confirmed that Peaches told her that I had yelled at her, that I had been aggressive, vindictive, and argumentative, and that she was given information on me by Peaches for her video. The person she is talking about in these clips is Hopeless Peaches, or at least that is the main person she is talking about. The person who is, quote, scared to talk about me, scared of my fan base, and confronted me about my Jaclyn video is Peaches, because literally no other creator talked to me about that or talked to me one-on-one or seemed to have a problem with it enough that they brought it to my attention via DM.
She also attempted to discredit Manga Kamen under the belief that he helped on the document. To do this, she claimed that he was sexist for not swearing in front of her.
And also, might I add, mega comment. Let it be known that I so appreciate the fact that you try to keep it classy in front of us women by not swearing. I really do appreciate that because my fragile little constitution simply cannot handle any form of cussing. If I hear someone swear even a little bit, I just fall to pieces. So thank you for that, my most chivalrous gentleman. That's so strange that you need to feel the need to not do that, but alright.
Bear in mind, he had no involvement in writing the document. Throwing even more fuel on this fire, Shannon then implied that Peaches doxed her phone number to the writers. This was, as you may have guessed, baseless. She then went on to imply Peaches was racist for disagreeing with black people.
He a bit racist when we get into what you try to pull with Kai and Omnia. I mean, you have to be the white girl victim to the angry black woman and black man, right? But I'm not there yet.
The defining trait of this controversy is that screenshots don't exist for most of the claims. Because of this, the outcome largely depended on who the audience favored. This was to Creepshow's benefit, given she had the largest channel. That's not to say everything she claimed was a lie, or both sides didn't mischaracterize each other, but looking at the evidence we do have, there truly was nothing egregious enough to justify its sheer grandiosity. Shannon wasn't even the worst offender in this. The main perpetrator was Luke, but she prodded him, and gave him a false idea of Peaches because of her bruised ego. The video was received well by her core audience, though there was a growing sentiment in favor of Peaches due to the efforts of other YouTubers. On March 18th, 2021, Hopeless Peaches released her final response, and was able to expose many of the mischaracterizations and flat-out lies spread amidst the drama. It was received positively, though by this point, much of the audience had moved on to other subjects. While now she had a significant amount of supporters, it was not enough to pressure those involved into apologizing. And, just as she had in the past, Creepshow once again moved forward by ignoring the controversy. She continued uploading throughout 2021, able to maintain a consistent base of over 100,000 viewers. By May of 2021, she managed to finally surpass the 500,000 subscriber milestone. The Creepshow Art channel was still healthy, and in spite of everything, many were still willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. But then, 1 month later, everything changed. Lolcow Farm is an image board used to document and gossip about various figures online, typically in the beauty and cosplay community. These types of websites are generally disavowed, as many argue they incite doxing, stalking, and other forms of harassment. While users are generally anonymous, there are several rules that, if violated, can lead to the poster being banned, and even outed publicly. Shannon had been suspected of posting for some time. However, it was never formally confirmed. That is, until June 2nd, 2021, when an admin officially exposed her as a frequent user. As many users of this thread are aware, Shannon's posts on Lolcow haven't exactly been subtle. She has been anonymously promoting her videos and Patreon/YouTube membership to farmers, and making posts about herself to either white knight or insult herself. For many years, we've had a policy to reveal post histories of users who go to great lengths to use lolcow.farm to propel their own online presence. You can read the full post history here. In total, Shannon made 292 posts over the span of 3 years, dating back all the way to 2018, which is when she started her channel. The vast majority of these messages concerned herself, through either subtle defenses or backhanded praise. In one post, she even claimed to have messaged herself, writing, "So I DM'd Creepshow about being doxxed to say I'm sorry she's going through this, and she let me know he didn't have her correct information and she was fine. Throughout nearly all of the aforementioned controversies, she defended herself in the third person. For example, during the Jaclyn Hill drama, she subtly bragged about how many subscribers she had in spite of the backlash. This occurred with Hopeless Peaches all throughout 2020, beginning in March during their initial falling out. She writes, "So let me get this straight. This girl goes around befriending YouTubers, rips off their content, says exactly what they say in less interesting ways, and then, after that person puts them on their channel and asks their followers to follow this clone, she turns into a bitch. What a f***ing cow. I want to figure out who else she has done this to, because how she talks, it can't just be Shannon. This is disgusting." Many of her postings also concern creators she was on friendly terms with, such as D'Angelo Wallace and Edwin's Generation. D'Angelo is the guy that everyone pretends to like, but no one really does. He tries to get in tight with a lot of them, and because he talked about drama and made Holly look like a tool, they befriended him for safety. He's worse than Creepshow. At least she had the ability to grow and is doing something completely different than what she started with. He's doing the same thing on repeat, acting like he's doing something big, and now admits to creeping on Lolcow. It's funny because the person he's talking about in this tweet is Shannon. Even Toby, who she sang the praises of, was diminished to a knockoff but worse in every way. At one point, Shannon manufactured an entire argument pretending to be different people on opposing sides in order to convince users she didn't post on the website. But the final straw, according to the Lolcow admin, was a post made on March 28, 2021. It had been known in the past that Shannon and her sibling had a complicated relationship. In a Reddit thread about the worst person you've ever met, she claimed that her sister called her boyfriend abusive for being a straight male. Regardless, nothing could justify what happened next. In March, Shannon's sister was hospitalized and put into an intensive care unit. Not being told the reason, Shannon reached out to find out why, only to be blocked for invading her privacy. This angered her to the point that she posted their account to Lolcow in an attempt to have her sister doxxed by Lolcow users. It took 2 months for Creepshow Art's postings to be made public, primarily to ensure their authenticity. These types of releases have a lot of technical and behavioral context outlined in a document concerning a previous incident. This includes the use of cookies for identification, as well as linking their devices and IP addresses. Such was the case for the investigation into Shannon. Because of this, her response was quite laughable. Mere hours after the document was released, Shannon claims to have been hacked. However, the hacker didn't do anything except hide her community tab, private old videos, and alter her channel's appearance. Like, they made her banner and avatar a bunch of glitch effects. Then, on June 4th, the expose went viral after being posted onto Twitter. Suddenly, right when she needed to address the controversy, Shannon conveniently regained access to her community. The next day, Shannon posted a several paragraph long response to the accusations. She claims to have been framed by a stalker named Amy, who was previously the subject of an hour-long video. This Amy supposedly harassed her over the course of 8 years. She claimed that Amy was able to spoof their IP address in order to frame Shannon. However, this response was very quickly debunked by Lolcow, who pointed out the post came from multiple locations and devices, which aligns perfectly with her travel history. Shannon's IPs accurately reflect her different locations and the device models she has been known to use. We have additional data that we don't want to divulge. Her explanation only proves that she can't deny our legitimacy. The implication that nearly 300 posts over the span of 2.5 years all came from one single spoofed IP is ridiculous. Shannon hasn't pointed out which singular IP she's confirming as her post history because she's too stupid to realize that she just implicitly confirmed her entire post history. Needless to say, this response was not well received.
Unsurprisingly, Shannon has a board of her own on Lolcow where multiple anonymous users either critique, insult, or even straight up trash her. One of the admins of the site recently posted these allegations under Creepshow's board, which goes as follows, quote, "As many users in this thread are aware, Shannon's posts on Lolcow haven't exactly been subtle.
There's a lot floating around about other things she may have done. A lot of it looks very damning. The thing is, once I accepted the admin situation and attaching with that the IP spoofing being unlikely, that for me is kind of the end of the situation, because for me, once you go behind my back and say about me, it almost doesn't matter what you're saying about me.
it's done because the trust is gone there.
Redirecting the conversations to other creators, other people like Peaches, Creepshow. Creepshow wished to throw others under the bus in that forum in order to keep the conversation away from her, and to also throw people into the fire that angered her. Although it puts a bit of a question on her actual homophobic ideals or her transphobic ideals that she posted on Lolcow. But honestly, at this point, I don't really care if she loves the gays or not. I think the real message to let go of is that this is a funny case of somebody who thinks the internet isn't forever, and somebody that thinks they can do anything online as long as there's no name attached to what they're doing.
Our legal system emphasizes innocence until proven guilty, but the internet isn't exactly the same. And in the court of public opinion, Shannon is guilty and Creepshow's time on YouTube is finished. And the real truth—
What she told me is that she didn't want me or anyone else defending her. Creepshow is openly telling us, do not defend me. I think she knows she's lying, and that's why she doesn't want us to defend her. Because she knows that we will catch shit if we defend her, and the truth eventually comes out.
Shannon began to lose subscribers at an alarming rate, with the loss growing exponentially each passing day. Shannon subsequently claimed to be taking legal action before becoming inactive on social media. Multiple friends would reach out in private, only to receive equally unsatisfactory answers. Many were told to disassociate themselves from her, as if in admittance of guilt. Eventually, several of those mentioned by Shannon, including Ready to Glare and Hopeless Peaches, would speak out about the situation, receiving near universal support.
And I just wanted to share this experience, as it does kind of line up a lot with other things coming out about Shannon. And I personally just now feel like, well, the bubble's burst, and I need to share it.
But as the public grappled with the revelatory information, a series of entirely worse allegations would surface that completely blindsided them, as it came from a YouTuber that Creepshow had never mentioned before on her channel. Despite this, that individual is referenced to the most in her posts on Lolcow, and was in fact the first person she ever talked about beside herself. It's finally time to discuss the allegations that ended Creepshow Art's career, that being the claims from a YouTuber named Emily Artful. The posts made against Emily Artful are noteworthy in just how vitriolic and personal they are. In this message from January 8th, 2019, Shannon gives a detailed explanation as to Emily's history as a cam girl and struggles with addiction. She constantly attempted to goad others into stalking her, re-uploading her videos, and even insulting her abilities as a mother. There surely had to be something deeper to her hatred of this specific person. On June 8th, Emily Artful published a series of tweets accusing Shannon of extremely deranged behavior. She wrote that Shannon was married to her ex-boyfriend, and together, the two had tormented her for years. This included impersonation, sharing revenge porn from when she was 17, and even getting her fired from multiple jobs, leading to her becoming homeless. I am currently shaking and crying because Creepshow Art is finally being exposed for the absolute terrible person she is. I have known Shannon for many years, even before she started her YouTube channel. She has copied, stalked, harassed, and threatened me and my children's lives. This person has pushed me to the brink of taking my own life multiple times, and then tried to blame it on a mutual friend when I finally caught her red-handed by tracing her IP. Even more shockingly, Emily revealed that everything Shannon claimed Amy to have done was actually things Shannon had done to Emily. While promising to show receipts in a video, Emily did continue the thread with some elaborations. Shannon continuously attempted to instigate drama over the years through a variety of techniques. This included deliberately copying Emily's videos, as well as creating fake accounts in order to have her canceled. The response to these tweets were overwhelming, with many anticipating the release of her video. After all, until then, they couldn't be sure that these claims were substantiated. On June 12th, Emily uploaded a 2-hour-long video titled, "Creepshow Art Has Always Been This Way."
If you're not familiar with who I am, I have been making art content here on YouTube for the past 6 years. For the majority of those 6 years and several years prior prior, I had been facing stalking, harassment, and threats from one very recognizable source. And while I didn't know who my stalker was before, now I know who my stalker is. My stalker is Shannon, better known as Creepshow Art, and what I believe to be her current husband, Anthony Parker.
The timeline begins in 2010. Then, 18 years old, Emily was a gig musician whilst living alongside her parents in California. She was addicted to prescription pills at the time, alongside a variety of other illegal substances. While performing at the Nickel City Arcade, Emily hit it off with a fellow musician named Anthony Parker. The two quickly entered an intense codependent relationship with extreme highs and lows. Emily recalled being afraid of him, stating that he would punch holes in the drywall when upset. She also claimed he dreamed of retribution, fantasizing about wearing a mask to kidnap his high school bullies and torture them. Ultimately, the relationship would end as quickly as it began. Despite regularly cheating on her, Anthony became infuriated after Emily left a flirtatious comment on a gay friend's selfie. This resulted in him ghosting her, before having a friend threaten to curb stomp his now ex. The next day, Emily drove to Anthony's workplace in hopes of reconciliation. Instead, she met his coworker Shannon, who informed her that he didn't come into work. This is, presumably, around when Anthony and Shannon began dating. Following this, Emily accepted that it was over and began to move on. The ex-lovers wouldn't interact again until 2013, when Anthony reached out to apologize. Because of their previous history, this rekindling turned into a flirtationship. But that was unsustainable, as after all, this was built from a codependent relationship. At one point, Emily describes an incident in which Anthony crawled through the window of her house. Immobilized from her substance abuse, she was effectively assaulted. Emily eventually took a step back and limited their relationship to a professional one in which she'd help his band, Ayla's Universe. At one point, Anthony sent Emily a demo to a song that he was working on. The track already had female vocals on it, which Emily decided to make a scene over.
I hear the girl's voice. The girl's voice is Shannon's. And I say, man, that girl's voice is weak. It doesn't sound good on the track. My voice would sound so much better. Super catty, super bitchy, and super insecure, immature. There's a million words I could use for what I said about it. So I put Shannon down to raise myself up. And I believe in doing that, that is what set off this chain of events, the stalking, the harassment, the threats.
Anthony didn't react much, but did end up having Emily record vocals for the final version of the song. It's believed this would be the inciting incident to what became a decade-long harassment campaign. Shortly after, an onslaught of negative comments began appearing across her social media accounts. Bear in mind, this was before the Emily Artful brand. She then received a ton of Facebook friend requests, which she foolishly accepted. This led her to be phished and locked out of her own account. The hackers then began downloading compromising images of her, including from when she was a minor. Despite being told about this, they then compiled those pictures onto a photo bucket, which was used to taunt her.
Of trying to gain access to that account, because I was afraid that I would irritate my stalker and they would, dangle those photographs, some of which, in which I was a minor, over my head.
The harassment was constant, pushing Emily to the verge of ending her life. They began mocking her appearance in hopes of triggering her eating disorder. She attempted to seek support from Facebook, but they refused. And to this day, she has still not gained access to the account. By this point, Emily was deep into an addiction while still in a toxic business relationship. Despite receiving an email confirming the hacker was from the same city as Anthony, she hadn't yet put the pieces together. She attempted to maintain a sense of normalcy while working a regular job as a receptionist. However, she was fired after the stalker posed as a client and emailed her employer a compromising video from when she was a cam girl. Even her side gig of makeup was interfered with, as the two left false negative reviews that cost her a big client.
Didn't really have control of much. I tried to get a regular job, and Andrew and potentially Shannon found out about this regular job and decided to email my job and send them a compromising video of myself. They posed as a client, said, I'm a regular client. You've lost my business because look at your, disgusting human being of a receptionist.
This inability to work led her to be temporarily homeless. Emily then uses this opportunity to point out that despite what she claimed, Shannon had only been homeless by choice, as it was a conscious decision so Anthony could pursue his dreams of becoming a rock star.
Hi, future Emily here. So Shannon was never technically quote-unquote homeless. I mean, she was without a home, but in the traditional sense, her and Anthony were homeless by choice. And I know that because listen to what Anthony says in this video he posted on his YouTube channel in August of last year.
So in this video, I wanted to go over what it was like to be homeless, or kind of partially be homeless, living out of a car for about 2.5, 3 years or so. And keep in mind, this was a conscious decision to do this. We didn't get evicted and thrown out on the street or something like that. We planned for this for about 6 months to about a year or so.
Emily felt so defeated that once she did find a place to stay, she largely stopped posting online at all. She gave up on makeup and instead found another job out of town. Throughout 2014, Emily began focusing on improving herself. She began attending therapy and even managed to achieve sobriety. Because of this, she felt comfortable enough to stop hiding and start the Emily Artful channel. This would be a place for her to share stories from her life, creating a series titled Sketchbook Storytime in order to fill a gap in the market. And for the next 2 to 3 years, it would be mostly smooth sailing. However, this would change in October of 2017. That month, Emily uploaded a video titled "You Are Not an Artist," which was the first of hers to perform well, receiving over 200,000 views. Because of this, Anthony decided to make a new account to harass her on Twitter, accusing her of view-botting. Minutes later, a sock puppet named Not Viral Emily messaged her an image of her social blade, implying it had to be artificial growth. The two then had an argument in which she basically had to explain how the algorithm worked.
Because I guess he thought that was funny. And then all of a sudden, moments later, I get a DM on Twitter from an account literally named Not Viral _ Emily. And in this DM, it has my social blade stats, basically circling and insinuating that I had paid for these views, because I guess at this point Andrew had no idea how the YouTube algorithm works, and sometimes a video is just heavily promoted.
This continued onto Snapchat, in which a user named Kilgore Trout sent an ominous message that made her fear for her safety. However, after further conversation, it became apparent to her that it was once again Anthony. This was enough for her to begin compiling evidence, hoping to seek some form of legal recourse. She even hired a private investigator. Unfortunately, her lawyer told her that this wasn't a good idea to pursue in court, as proving definitively they were behind the sock puppet accounts would be near impossible. But she was able to fish several of them, and found their IPs traced back to wherever Shannon and Anthony were living at the time. This even included a local library during the time frame of when they were homeless. Things were quiet for a while until 2018. When the hate re-emerged. Emily began to receive a flood of comments about a YouTuber named Creepshow Art regarding similarities between their videos. Emily now believes these to have been left by sock puppets. In order to instigate conflict, Shannon used the Sketchbook Storytime name and even copied several of Emily's titles and thumbnails. Now at this point, Emily didn't know who Creepshow Art was, and politely reached out to her to ask her to change them.
But I put my heart and soul into my series, and I'd really appreciate if you were able to change the name of your Storytime videos. You are completely within your right not to, as it's your channel and you can do with it as you please, but from one artist to another, I hope you'll understand how it can hurt my business. I love your art, and it's obvious you're very talented. You've got an incredibly unique style. I've never seen anything like it. I hope you understand my requests, and I hope you don't think I'm angry. Things like this happen all the time. I figure it's just a coincidence. Thank you, Emily. And Shannon responded, "Sorry man, I watched Lehman Raptor on YouTube and she has a series titled the same name and she gave me a go-ahead. I'll just label them as Storytime since that's all it is, but I appreciate you letting me know your concern."
The two became associates, with Emily following Creepshow on Instagram. It was only then that she realized who Creepshow was, after she posted a drawing of her then boyfriend Anthony. This made Emily suspicious, though she still wasn't sure if Shannon was actively aware of the stalking. However, as time passed, her involvement became more and more clear. Emily would be constantly inundated with strange criticisms from newly made accounts. For example, one named Brianna Lang that pointed out her icon resembled a hijab. After Emily responded, the conversation immediately pivoted to Creepshow Art. In February of 2019, The Rewired Soul was canceled after he began talking about other people's mental health without their consent. Because Emily had interacted with him favorably in the past, a user named DatBoy messaged Emily with threats against her children.
During that whole debacle, I got a DM on Twitter from someone named DatBoy, and they say, "Uh-oh, dear, looks like you're friends with a fraud. Do you want to be hurt in the worst possible way? Somebody is a bad mommy. Maybe we let everyone know how bad of a mommy you are. Keep telling people you're sober, girl. Maybe if you say it enough, people will believe it. Have fun endorsing your fraud, druggy bitch. Have fun faking your sobriety for your mindless followers. They believe you, but no one else does, my dear. You bad mommy. I've got receipts, druggy bitch," with a winky face.
During Halloween, Emily uploaded a 3-part holiday special she produced with her then 1-year-old son. Despite being quite harmless, she began receiving comments shaming her for monetizing her kids. This seems to line up with a post Shannon made on Lolcow about Emily being a bad mother. On October 24th, 2018, Emily uploaded a video titled, "My Problem with a Big YouTuber, Sketchbook Storytime." It quickly received over 1 million views, though is currently private due to the infighting it caused. Despite what the title may imply, it was not about Shannon, but as you'd expect, many apparent sock puppets appeared regardless. One of these accounts was named Lily Sing, which Shannon took a screenshot of and responded to on her Instagram story. Emily was able to fish this account, once again returning to an IP from the couple's area. Shannon's response led to a direct confrontation between the two, which Emily goes on to read out in full.
Shannon says, "Gah, I'm sorry, I went on a rant from your video. For some reason, people are trying to insert me into it, which I get, because I am kind of a bitch. There's a f***ing girl on here /YouTube and now Twitter who is just f***ing relentless with this shit, and it's just goddamn annoying at this point. So I was just putting my 2 cents out there. Nothing but respect for you and your video. You're f***ing dope as hell, and I'd never try to step on your toes. Really, Shannon? Also, props to you for not saying the name. That's a f***ing classy move, my dude. You're 100% more mature than I am. Are you the one that's been stalking me? Or is it Andrew? We can be candid now because I know it's one of you. Those fake accounts you've been making have led me right to Oregon. I suspected it was him at first when he went on a spree on his main account on Twitter, trying to convince my followers I bought my subscribers and my views. Almost immediately after he did that, a mysterious new Twitter account accused me of the same thing, also with an IP from that area in Oregon. When I first started to get harassed, you both must still have been in San Jose, because that IP came from somewhere in San Jose. But at the time, I had no idea who it was. But now, over time, in order to protect myself and my family, I decided to get smarter. So I just really don't know if it's you or him. Either way, I've been giving all this information to the police, including the more accurate IP from that Lily Sing account. All I ask is to be left alone by you and your boyfriend. It's been 8 years. I also forgot to mention that I baited that Lily Sing account into clicking a link with an IP tracker that led me straight to their new location because they had since moved.
Shannon denies either her or Anthony being the stalker, dismissing the clear-cut incidents as an example of his trollish sense of humor. She claims they were too busy and that she understood because she'd also been harassed by a stalker for 12 years. 4 months later, Shannon would upload her video about Amy, which, as Emily explains, reappropriated many of the specific traumatic events inflicted upon her. And while Emily is able to show receipts, Shannon failed to show any evidence that Amy existed. Ultimately, this would be when Emily decided to ignore Shannon. The amount of money it would cost to draft a temporary restraining order was simply not worth it. Instead, she began minimizing the amount of private messages she read, as the sock puppets continued to quietly harass her for years. And then, we fast forward to June of 2021. Creepshow Art's true face has been exposed, and Emily now feels she can speak out about the harassment she'd endured. On the 8th, she made her first ever public statement on the matter, revealing the insane scope of what had occurred. For the first time ever, she received widespread support, and apparently, no longer had to suffer alone in silence. Then, 2 days later, a burner account named Britta Filter messages her on Twitter. The individual, who many believe is most likely Shannon, claims to have identified Emily's actual stalker. Identifying them as the stalker's sibling, they not so subtly threaten to release an archive of embarrassing old content if she releases her video about Creepshow. Emily called her bluff, and 2 days later, premiered Creepshow Art Has Always Been This Way.
I have to say, for legal purposes, that everything in this video is alleged. I just encourage people to look at the evidence and form their own opinions. I also want to say I originally censored Anthony's name in this video. I called him Andrew, just kind of out of a habit. But I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. His handle online is Anthony Parker, and he raped me.
Within the first 2 weeks, her video surpassed over 3 million views, destroying what little credibility Shannon had left. Shannon's most popular video has 2 million views, meaning the most popular single piece of work regarding the Creepshow Art name at all is 1 million views more than that, and it's 3 hours of calling her a terrible person. Even at that, terrible doesn't feel like a word fitting enough to encompass all that she's accused of. All of Anthony's social media accounts were subsequently deleted, and by June 16th, the Creepshow Art channel had lost over 100,000 subscribers. Emily's video opened the floodgates for a wave of testimonies against Creepshow to surface, with varying levels of importance. One of the most significant include Loki Coulter, who attended college with Shannon in 2011. Loki alleged that every time they hung out, she would fixate unhealthily on Emily. This eventually escalated to harassment. He writes, "Shannon told me how she had plans to harass Emily, either by sending her letters or prank calling her home. How she plans to leave hate messages in her videos or DMs from her from burner accounts to spread hate. This is when I began to distance myself from Shannon. One of my last interactions with her was her proudly showing me that Emily had posted a video about her closing her YouTube channel because of the harassment she was receiving. On the 18th, Shannon's previously doxxed sibling held an Ask Me Anything. There, they confirmed to have witnessed the stalking in person, and felt comfortable stating Amy did not exist. In the meantime, Shannon went into hiding, though she quietly continued watching the fallout. This was evident in August, when she angrily argued with another YouTuber and former friend, Tipster, for commenting on her husband's channel.
I don't know if you're reading messages here, and yes, I have been publicly critical of you and stand by what I said, but I'm still here if you need to talk. And initially, I didn't get a response from that. So I just kind of like, figured I'd wait like a day or two and see like, do I get a response here? And I didn't get a response. So I just kind of assumed like, okay, they're not reading DMs, or if they're reading DMs, they're not responding to them. Whatever. No big deal. But I got a response last night, or rather this morning, at 1:11 a.m. You want me to talk to you after you commented on my husband's channel because of a provably false rape accusation. Really? You thought that was smart? Okay. That sounds like a very serious claim to make about me. Makes it seem like not only did I leave a comment on their husband's channel, but it was like a horrible one, right?
At one point, she even tried to quietly convince Gabby Hanna into calling out one of her ex-friends, which did not really help her public image as a manipulator. Ultimately, people surmised that Shannon wasn't going to respond, implicitly accepting responsibility for her behavior. However, over half a year after Emily's video, they were proven wrong, when Creepshow Art released The Lies of Emily Artful with evidence. Uploaded on New Year's Eve, Shannon had spent the past 6 months working on a 90-page document that translated into a 2.5-hour-long video. Despite there being an extraordinary amount of information, I'm not going to cover most of it, mostly because the vast majority is not relevant. Rather than fixate on specific claims, Shannon focuses on attempting to assassinate Emily's character using information dating all the way back to middle school.
Emily has been posting online to various accounts since she was 13, all of which have been verified to belong to her. From these accounts, I've realized that Emily has an extremely long pattern of obsessive behavior to people she's romantically attracted to, and a long pattern of calling the people who she's attracted to abusive after the fact.
It's a chronicle of seemingly every mistake Emily has made online across a plethora of different online handles and accounts, even using the color of her childhood home's walls to track her location, which makes quite a bit of sense if you're of the opinion that Shannon is a stalker. Through this, Shannon created a timeline making massive extrapolations from what was available on social media, such as when Emily was or wasn't sober. This is especially confusing given Emily had already acknowledged that she was a terrible person in the past. That's why she went to therapy to work on her maladaptive behaviors. But after a certain point, you have to wonder if this was a genuine attempt at disproving allegations, or Shannon simply trying to damage everyone who wronged her while at the bottom. After all, the section about Amy is only 3 pages long, and consists entirely of emails from 2006. If this stalking had occurred over the course of 5, 8, or 12 years, shouldn't there be some evidence from at least one other point in time? The two had supposedly reconciled. Where are those conversations? Is there any indication she framed you on Lolcow? These questions were left unanswered, in favor of showing her siblings' full name, childhood pictures, and private messages. That, and accusing Coulter of assaulting her, with no evidence, before criticizing him for making his own claims without evidence as well. To be fair, there is at least one point that is undeniably credible. The Snapchat user, Kilgore Trout, probably was not Anthony at all, with other creators receiving similar messages around the same time. It appears to have simply been a promotional stunt that Emily mistook for targeted harassment. But for most of the refutations to specifics, her claims are unsubstantiated. Much of them rely on plausible deniability, which may have worked for someone with more credibility, but if there's anything clear so far in this video, it's that Shannon has none. Even if one or two of the other sock puppets can't be linked definitively beyond speculation, it's difficult to ignore the pattern of behavior illustrated even beyond Emily's word. Given how much of the video reaffirms the narrative that Creepshow Art does in fact have an unhealthy obsession with Emily, it did little to sway public opinion. It presently has only 2,000 likes and over 72,000 dislikes. But there was one aspect that still intrigued people. Shannon's video actually began with an ultimatum.
If you are seeing this video, it means one of two things has happened. Either one, my lawyers negotiated with Emily's lawyers and we reached a private settlement which resulted in some form of retraction, or two, I took Emily to court for defamation and came out the other side. This video is being made for posterity to show I didn't do what I was accused of, and to show that what Emily has accused me and my husband of not only never happened to her, but could not have happened.
This was blatantly untrue, as Emily did not comply or reach a settlement regarding her legal threats. Its inclusion was clearly some kind of oversight on Shannon's behalf, but proves a rather revealing insight to her intentions. Behind these scenes, Emily had been sent a letter by Shannon's lawyers demanding that she delete everything without a word, and to never mention it publicly. This would have specifically meant her recanting her assault story. Finding this unacceptable, she refused, and Shannon's video was immediately made public. She plans to have Emily mysteriously disappear before uploading a multi-hour-long hit piece about her. Thankfully, this didn't happen, and 1 month later, on February 8th, Emily uploaded her final response to Creepshow Art. It begins with a legal disclaimer before divulging details of the threats.
Plan. In the letter that was sent to me by her lawyer, and don't worry, I'll get to the lawyer in a minute, her lawyer states, if you publicly comment on this letter or the matter discussed herein, we will take that as a rejection of our offer to engage in settlement negotiations and will proceed to litigation.
It addresses many of the character assassinations against her, including correcting the timeline that Shannon had created using social media as if it were infallible. For example, documents that disproved how her sobriety was portrayed, and in general highlighting the ridiculousness of her examples.
And she used this information to attempt to smear me now as an adult. Because as we all know, the things we do as children directly relate to the kind of adult we will become. So if you were dramatic on the internet when you were 12, then that must make you a liar as an adult. Sorry about the heavy sarcasm there, it's just such a ludicrous notion.
Given how negatively Shannon's video was received, Emily's video was focused on closing the book entirely by addressing those negative points in her life. And after an exhausting hour and a half, that's exactly what she did, concluding the video by stating,
if you want to spend months, possibly years, fighting it out in court, spending thousands of dollars that we, you, me, and our families don't have, then go ahead. Bury us in legal fees. Drag this drama on. Refuse to move on with your life. I don't care. I want to be done with this. I want to be done with you. I want to detach you from me like a barnacle from a ship. I've come forward. I've said what I need to say. That's all that matters to me now. All I know is that now you've put all of this out on the table, you have nothing left to hurt me with.
The story of Creepshow Art is ultimately one that is difficult to find a ton of meaning in. After combing through years of petty drama and, frankly, a lot of bad videos that I didn't enjoy watching, and seeing Shannon's story all the way through, I'm honestly still not left with total satisfaction. While Shannon did get what was coming to her after years of shitty actions, lying and conniving, stalking, harassment, etc., in the end, her videos in the first place were the problem. She didn't need to be exposed for it to be obvious that she was vindictive and obsessive and kind of insane. To me, that was somewhat obvious from her videos about Hopeless Peaches, from her interactions with Toby, from all of her channel overall. Before any of the drama blew up, we had inklings of this. But thankfully, for anyone who hadn't noticed before, Creepshow Art was more than willing to reveal it herself. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone. And once again, a special thanks to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video.
I've heard it 1,000 times before, and it's just not that funny anymore.